So I was reading from Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya, if you ever get worked up or just feel out of balance uh, in the world, which happens to all of us every day, because things happen, read a little bit of Shankaracharya. It's very well written for these times, these modern times. It's very relatable, and the way he writes is very, very understandable if you have the ability to understand what he's talking about. And he himself says over and over, uh, you have to know, you have to have the knowledge of God. That has to be. Otherwise, nothing is of any use. So in 64, he said, whatever is seen or heard, so whatever you see, whatever you hear, other than Brahm, cannot be real. Illusions, delusions, uh, even that is Brahm, the secondless being, the one and only consciousness and bliss. When the reality is known, meaning you have to know, you have to realize. He who has the eye of knowledge, meaning he who has sees Brahm and sees this one reality, sees all the diversity, uh,
Pranam Guruji.
Tat Sat, sees all of the diversity all around us, in us, and us being involved with it. But with the eye of knowledge, when the eye is open, the spiritual eye is open, not from reading books, not from memorizing, but from seeing, spontaneous seeing and knowing immediately. Situations change, our moods change, but Brahm never changes. So when that eye of knowledge is open, you see that everything is Brahm, and you see what you formerly thought was yourself, your body, your brain, your personality, how it interacts with the world, its karmic relationships with the world. But you see that it's all Brahm, and that you also are. You have that realization. That's realization. That's what it's all about. Anything less than that is we're still bound to suffer. He who has the eye of knowledge sees Brahman, that is being, consciousness, and bliss. That's his nature. Being, consciousness, and bliss. It's easy for us to perceive it. The reason it's so easy for each of us to perceive it is it's because we are that. So it's very easy for us to perceive it. We just need a guru to point this out to us. It's not a secret potion. It's just pointing out the fact of what is real in all things. But he who has not the eye of knowledge cannot see it thus, as a blind man cannot see the shining sun. I see many, many people who write many, many books. Every day I'm astounded at all the new spiritual books. And it's really kind of creepy, I think, the new AI books that are being put out on every subject. And you can very easily tell what book is a uh, artificial intelligence book. But there's AI books coming out about kriya yoga now. Um, I was listening to a podcast. A fellow, he's a very very popular podcaster. He has gurus and swamis on the show. Really nice fellow. Um, has a lot of followers, and he interviews them. And he was interviewing uh, this fellow about Babaji and Badranath. Babaji's living in Badranath, and then he goes on to, when asked, he goes on to explain what Kriya Yoga is. And he says to the interviewer that Kriya Yoga is all about the breath, and goes on about all the different types of breath work that you do to cultivate Kriya Yoga realization, that it's breath work. And he himself is a master, meaning he's practiced all of these different techniques of breath work. I've seen quite a few people in India. I was first introduced to it by a yogi that was practicing breath work, and he could real thin, uh, older man. I thought probably in his 40s, and he could do astounding things because he could control his breath. Kriya Yoga, Babaji is not. It's not that type of yoga. It isn't. It isn't breath work at all. It's kriya pranayama. It's working with prana. The kriya is moving the prana. The kriya is the pulling of the prana up into the higher centers and then letting the prana fall down and pulling the prana up into the higher centers and letting the prana fall down. It's not the breath. The fact that Yogananda uh, told uh, his disciple, who had kind of quietly boasted that he had done 100,000 kriyas, and he asked him, "Did you do the kriyas with Ketri Mudra?" And he kind of sheepishly said, "No, sir." And everybody started laughing. He said, "Well, it's all for naught. It was all wasted." Uh, so that was just making fun of him. But it points out the fact that Kriya Pranayama can be performed by breathing through the nose and doing Ketri Mudra. So that's doing Kriya Yoga at an advanced level, breathing through the nose with the tongue and Ketri Mudra. You can get to that advanced level relatively quickly if you put in the effort. You should be able to do that within several months, 2 or 3 months. Uh, so Kriya Yoga, to be precise, it's working with the breath, but only momentarily. It's working with the breath to make it subtle, 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 calm, calm. You're calming the breath, calming the breath, calming the breath, and making the breath so calm that it seems to have disappeared. And Paramahansa Yogananda also uh, stated the fact that when Sri Yukteswar, he said it very clearly, that when I was there with Sri Yukteswar in his ashram, I saw him in the breathless state. I even put a little glass under his nose to see if some breath was coming out of the nose. And he remained in that statue state. Yogananda said this also. So how does this, if you say that Kriya Yoga is all of this breath work, how do you put those two together? Kriya Yoga, calming the breath, almost no breath. How do you put that with breath work? There's nothing to do breath work with. because there's no breath. So it is also relatively easy once you know that this is what you're supposed to do. It's relatively easy to calm the breath. Just forget about the mind. Let the mind do what the mind does, and you calm the breath. Put your concern on the breath, and you calm the breath. The little story that the Mahatma told me when I was a boy, he said that go go get a pole, and uh, you've been given a genie that'll do anything that you want. Will procure anything for you that you want. Will do any chore that you want. But it has to be active all the time, otherwise it'll gobble you up. It'll eat you. And you have so many things to do. You accept the genie. You think it's a great deal, and he so quickly and efficiently does everything that you ask of him. Comes to you, and master, what now? What now? What now? And you think, I'll do this, and so you go to the sadhu very quickly in an agitated state of mind, and you say, the genie is going to eat me. I'm running out of things to do. He said, oh, that's the easy solution. Get a pole and then tell him to dig a hole, put the pole in it, pack the dirt around it, and then tell him to climb to the top of the pole and then go down to the bottom of the pole. Climb up to the top of the pole and then go down to the bottom of the pole and just go up and down and up and down and up and down. The genie is the restless mind. You just put it on that pole, which we all have. And then our mind becomes calm. When our mind becomes calm because our breath is becoming calm, mind becomes calm. We don't have to worry about it. We might start out, say you're in a meditation, you sit down to meditate and you're very agitated. Maybe something happened today and you're very agitated, but you're dedicated to your meditation. You've made that vow to God that I will meditate every day. I swear it. I will do it. And so the time comes to meditate, and you think it's going to be useless because your mind is so active. And then you remember that your guru told you, don't worry about the mind. Don't even be concerned about the mind if it's active or calm. It doesn't matter. Do the technique. Do the Hong Sa or the Soham technique. Breathe in, breathe out. When you breathe in, Hong. When you breathe out, Sa. So, however active the mind was previous to your meditation is all gone. It's all gone into the past. Has no existence. The mind will become calm very, very quickly as you become more proficient in this kriya. Um, by God's grace, I was uh, given the ability that I struggled for decades to be able to sit and go into meditation, to be able to sit and uh, not have not have a care in the world, not have any cares about the world. You hear people I'll say, "How are you doing?" And they'll say, "I don't have a care in the world, man. I'm I'm really happy. I don't have any problems in the world." Uh, well, that's the state of true happiness, is not to have a care in the world. The, the world itself is an illusion. As Shankaracharya says, that the world is illusion. Everything is God. Everything is wrong. The self is the sun of knowledge that rising in the firmament of the heart, rises from the heart, destroys the darkness of ignorance, and pervading all and supporting all shines and makes everything shine. It shines of its own, and it makes everything else shine, coming up from the heart. But when we were doing the Hong Sa, I was doing the Hong Sa with you, and immediately I went into uh, deep meditation, and I was someplace else. I was looking down, and I was sitting on dirt covered with straw, and there were people walking about, and I was sitting on the straw uh, that was on top of dirt, and people were walking around. I didn't explore it any further, but if I had wanted to, I could have entered into that world, into that place, and uh, enjoyed what was happening there. It was some type of a spiritual um, uh, celebration of some sort. But when your meditation becomes powerful, not only can you escape all the troubles of the world, but you can enjoy all the carefree, untroubled worlds that there are in existence for you to enjoy. Spiritual realms that you definitely want to go to after death. Death is coming. It's coming for all of us. It's coming for everyone. I'm still amazed. I go to the grocery store, and I've gone to the grocery store my whole life. I was always the youngest person there, and I noticed old people, and I looked at them, and they were just there. They were old. I didn't give very much thought to it, but if any thought I had is I'm never going to become old like that. I don't I don't think that'll ever happen. And if it does, it'll be so far away. Why is there any reason to even think about it? Now when I go to the grocery store, I seem to be one of the oldest people there. And I think back about my days when I would go to the grocery store and I was the youngest person there. Um, so it happens to you like a magic trick. Your age changes like a magic show. Um, but it happens to everybody. It's uh, I think maybe it's having a little bit of a more of an effect on me because I'm more uh, interested in self-conscious and uh, changes, how things change, uh, how do they actually change, and how does that affect how does that change affect how others view you and think about you. I've always studied these types of things, so I find it interesting. Uh, Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya is one of the best to read. Excellent book of knowledge. The individual soul, that's you, melted in the fire of knowledge, that's you practicing kriya pranayama, kindled by instruction, That kindling is what your guru provides you. It's absolutely necessary. Only the guru can give you that kindling. Others that don't have the realization of the fire of knowledge, they have wet sticks, they have moss. It's wet. They're they're giving you this, they're giving you that, but there's nothing to kindle that fire. It might produce some excitement, but there's no fire. The one that has the fire in the belly, the actual fire, kindles the fire in you through instruction, gives you instruction. That had never been told to me, but I remember when I was initiated by Mahatma uh, Sukhanand, Krishna Sukhanand. Um, I, I first thing that I experienced was from him was power, which I thought was unusual because he was very thin. Uh, he would have made a beautiful woman. He was very beautiful, long black hair, and very quiet, extremely calm, but very very strong. I could sense a power from him. And I never thought of uh, Mahatmas and power. And I never saw the two together. But fire, fire and strength is something that you have. It's something that's the basis of you, as God created you. The individual soul melted in the fire of knowledge, kindled by instruction, is freed from all taints, like gold, and shines by itself. And that's a disciple who comes to the guru and is uh, put into the fire, kindled by the fire of instruction, and all the karma is melted away. The only thing that is left is just pure, pure, shining gold. And everywhere you go after that, you see only gold. You see only light. Everywhere you go, that light shines. Some comprehend it, some see it, some recognize it in it. They want to know what it is. Uh, some never, some have never heard of any such thing. They think it's uh, your particular power of attraction. So they want to ask you questions. They want to get to know you, and wherever you travel, your footsteps are footsteps of light. Um, he who unmindful of the limitations of direction, space, time, etc., and perfect tranquil attains the sanctum of the self. That is the all-pervading, stainless, eternal bliss which dispels all qualities like heat and cold, etc. He becomes all-knowing, all-pervading, and immortal. That's the last stanza of the knowledge of the self. He becomes all-knowing, all-pervading, and immortal. Now, this is how it was explained to me, and this is because it was explained to me so well by the Mahatmas. What what do you want? Uh, I said, I want that. I want knowledge. I want knowledge of the self. I want knowledge of God. I want to experience. Um, no, no books were offered. No books were suggested. Um, there were no books there. But books weren't even mentioned. Um, what books have you read? Nobody asked me any question of what books have you read. Mahatma Krishna Sukhananda looked at me. He studied me. He saw a thin young boy, uh, Caucasian, who had traveled a long way, uh, asking to know God, asking for knowledge, asking to know the self. Because I read Shankaracharya, Knowledge of the Self. I read the Upanishads, where it says to meditate on the self. And my question was, I, I want to know that self so I can meditate on it, because that self is is the bliss that's being spoken of, is the knowledge that's being spoken of. How can I meditate on it if I don't know it? I can't go to a book and find it. I can't I can't go to any person, none of the persons that I know. Uh, and my school was a university. Uh, nobody knew anything about knowledge of the self. Who would I go to? So I understood that I had to go to one who had knowledge of the self, which you would call someone who is enlightened. I had no knowledge of, no thought of, had never heard of anything crooked or anything dishonest about anything really, other than just things that boys do. I had no idea that people would be crooked in spirituality. That even today, that sounds so strange and odd to me. But I, I've studied those teachers and gurus that give teachings and give presentations, and and it's also classified in the scriptures that there's different types of gurus. So I've never met any guru who was a bad person. They all taught instruction of some type, and the instruction of some type was had some value. Like Hatha Yoga, for example, has value. Hatha Yoga, along with meditation practices, has value. Um, Changing your lifestyle to vegetarian, um, simple uh, food of rice and dal or khichdi, uh, meditating twice a day, uh, living a simple life, thinking of God, reading about God. There's many spiritual teachers who teach that. Uh, I never saw anything wrong with that, other than one thing. Uh, and I met quite a few. None of them offered that fire, that fire of God. They offered me all these other things, but none of them offered that fire of God. I want to see the self. I want to see Brahman. I want to be able to meditate on the self, to realize Brahman, to realize God. And they would say, well, do this and do this, do these kriyas, do these hatha yoga movements, do these different pranayamas um, for this period of time, and then I'll initiate you into some higher instruction uh, in 1 year or 2 years, and we'll see how you're progressing. And none of that appealed to me in the slightest. Not not the the practice that they were suggesting or they were giving. But what didn't appeal to me is that fire of the self, the fire of knowledge, wasn't included in any of this. And that was the whole point. Is I want to have that fire kindled in me. And I want that fire kindled in me today. I don't want to do a lot of practices and then someday have it kindled in me. I want that fire to be kindled in my heart now, today. And none of them could do that. Many of them had no idea what I was talking about. They apparently they didn't understand Shankaracharya's book, the Knowledge of the Self. Um, and some gurus, along with it in their routines, they give a mantra, they give japa. But many are confused about spiritual knowledge, spiritual techniques, mantras, mudras, uh, uh, kriyas, uh, how to concentrate, where to concentrate. Uh, most are confused because they don't have anybody to instruct them. They need an instructor. If you come to the point where um, I know everything, I'm a master. There's nothing left for me to do but to instruct others in what I've learned. And so they become a guru of instruction, of instructing students in all these ways of preparation, but they never give the fire of knowledge. They can't tell in the student, they can't see the signs of which student is prepared and is ready to have that fire of knowledge kindled in their heart because they don't have that that inner eye open. The spiritual eye isn't open. It's closed. It's closed to the light. But they have vast knowledge and learning of spiritual things, but the light of the eye is not shining. You can see a person. I can see a person. I can see where their energy is. I can see exactly in their body where their energy is. Just at a glance. I don't make a judgment about it. I just notice it like I would notice um, different types of trees or different types of breeds of dogs or colors of dogs.
Guruji,
People, yes, Akriti.
is energy different at different times of the day, or like once a person has reached a level of where they focus their attention, the energy remains there, or does it keep dropping and going back up depending on where they're focusing?
Well, you find that after you're born and you start to mature, that your energy inspires you to do certain things and to think about certain things. And that's because of your past state of consciousness. The state of consciousness, whatever state of consciousness you had attained in your previous life, along with all the karmic uh, elements attached to that, that's what you very quickly become in this life. Very, very quickly. Within within months, you start to act and think and be like you were in your previous life. Uh, if you had attained some degree of spiritual realization, you would quickly uh, rise up to that state of spiritual realization. But you would be confused about it because you would need to be instructed again. You would need to be shown again where to where to focus and what to do. Um, so that the energy should uh, throughout the day it should primarily be uh, between the heart and the spiritual eye, sometimes above the spiritual eye. I was told very strictly by all the Mahatmas to keep my attention at the Agni chakra, keep it here at all times. At all times. I was told very firmly, keep your attention here. Keep your attention in the spiritual eye.
But Guruji, is it like when we raise, basically like how you said that it's not breath work, it's prana work, kriya yoga. So when we raise our prana, firstly, how do we is it that we will always be aware that the prana is rising, or there can be days where you're not realizing that it's going up? And is it going up anyway by performing the kriya, or there is a quality to it that raises the prana? Like,
Well, through very good question. Through practice, you'll begin to recognize prana. And through practice, through association with the recognition of prana, you'll start to uh, notice its nature and where it's located on that particular morning and its movement. Is it having a tendency to go below the heart, or is it having a tendency to go above the heart? If you're uh, very sattvic, in other words, if you're very selfless, if you're very kind, if you're very loving, if you're very giving, if you have those feelings, uh, as just a matter of fact, if you're that type of person, uh, if somebody needs something, you immediately offer uh, to them what they need. If you're that type of person, that's because your prana is at the heart center or above, and it is not going below the heart. You've achieved quite a bit in a previous life to be secure at the heart center. Everything below the heart center is trouble. Um, Most have a mixture of uh, a sattvic nature along with a rajasic nature. Most have a mixture and a tamasic nature. Uh, uh, in other words, we think of these things, we desire these things, we imagine these things of a sattvic nature. Like we think about saints, we think about gurus, we think about Mahatmas, we think about Babaji, we think about the Himalayas, we think about the Ganges, but we're also thinking about cars, we're also thinking about uh, a new house, new furniture, a girl or a boy, and food, and all sorts of things. But then we're also uh, feeling motivated to attain certain things. Feeling motivated to attain certain things is rajasic. I want that. That's rajasic. Uh, Sattvic, there's no feeling that you want something, that you want to attain something. It doesn't exist in a sattvic state. That's rajasic, and it's okay to be rajasic and sattvic. It would be much better to be rajasic and sattvic than to be sattvic with tamas qualities. Tamas qualities are degrading and deplorable desires, uh, nasty, dirty thoughts uh, that your mind just goes to. Um, if you let your mind roam, if you let your mind be uh, unguarded, your mind, if you have a tamasic qualities, your mind will start thinking of disgusting things, of bad things, and you might get inspired to actually do those things that you think about. Um, but it's not a problem if you have Kriya Yoga. You can do away with all of your tamasic qualities. Have that uh, have the master kindle that fire in your heart and have the prana rise to the heart and stay at the heart and never again go below the heart. It might a few times, but after the kindling, after the awakening, if it does, if you have the thought that you formerly had, an impure thought, it'll be so disgusting to you that you'll have nothing to do with it. You'll like, I, I, I'm disgusted by that. I'm not even going to contemplate it. I won't even think of such a thing. And that's because you're done with it. You're uh, you conquered it. There's no problem for you. Um, so if you have that in life, you can conquer it and do away with it in life. So most of us have uh, rajasic and sattvic natures. Um,
Well,
if you have a
Guruji,
yes,
to keep our
mhm.
prana above the heart or in the heart, is it Guru's grace or is it both practice and Guru's grace?
If it's above the heart,
Yes.
well,
Like to keep it there at all times.
it's it wouldn't even really be called grace. It's just be called reality because everything that you're experiencing other than that is it is an illusion. It's a hallucination. We believe that it's real, but it isn't. So you always are at the heart. You always are with Brahm. You always are with Krishna at all times. But but you're getting drowsy and you and you dream a little dream and then you dream another little dream and these little dreams are called days and they weave themselves into weeks and months and years and it's a dream. And then you come across a guru that sees that you have the ability to wake up. That person isn't in a deep sleep. That this person can be woken up, and the guru will wake that person up, and you'll see. Oh, I've been dreaming. That's what happened to Larry Messiah when he went up to Runnicott and saw uh, Babaji. Babaji said, don't you recognize me? Don't you know? Don't you remember? This where this is our cave. This is where we meditated. This is where we lived together. This is where we ate food. This is where we did spiritual practices. And he said, "Oh, it's starting to my, my memory is starting to come back. Yes, now." And then he falls at his feet and he says, "Yes, I remember. I remember." But he had forgotten. And this is Lahiri Mahasaya. So we also have forgotten our true nature. And our true nature is the same as the masters, as the guru. So we have that grace within us. Uh, we also are that grace ourselves, but we've forgotten our true self, our true, shining, beautiful uh, self. That by our touch, others can also be shown their true nature of truth and light, and where there's nothing but goodness. There's no hypocrisy. There's no lying. There's no stealing. There's only caring and tenderness in our true nature. Um, I, I it it can be troubling if I used to read a little bit. I was never interested in the Buddhist uh, teachings and philosophy. Just wasn't interested. I was just simply interested in uh, the lineage of Totapuri. They're in uh, Hardwar and Kriya Yoga with Babaji and Yogananda, Ramana Maharishi, and others I wasn't interested in. But you can you're going to be inclined to go where you're meant to go. You've heard people say that. They say, well, that's you've gone there because it was meant for you. What they're saying is you have the 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 thoughts, you have the desires, you have the inclinations to do certain things. So this job is good for you. It's a good fit for you because this is a subject that you think about. This is a subject that you uh, on your own you like to think about, you like to study, and you like to do. Uh, these are because of your characteristics. So we're trying to find out what we are, and the first thing we see is we start to see our characteristics, especially in meditation. We start to become introduced to ourselves in meditation. So we're initiated, and that light is kindled in our heart. I make sure when I initiate that light is kindled in your heart. I do that for everyone that I initiate. Um, so then you start your meditation, and that's when you start to see yourself, uh, not your real self, but yourself, the self that the world sees. You start to see that. You know, the way the way people in the world see you, it isn't the way that you see yourself. If you were if you were to be another person and observe yourself, you would be astounded at what people think about you. Um, just as people would be astounded to know what you think about them. Um, most things that we think about others, we keep to ourselves, or people get into little groups. They form little groups, and they in their groups they talk about particular people. They don't talk about themselves. They talk about the peculiarities and faults of other people. Um, uh, we also have faults and peculiarities. So when you meditate, you start to see that, and you start to see, well, I don't, I don't especially like this person. I think I think I can be a much better person than this. And the guru can teach you how to be a much better person, not to try to be like somebody else, not to copy somebody else's life, but but to live your life the way it's meant to be for you. Uh, and when your eye is open, when your spiritual eye is open, you easily are guided and discover the road ahead of you of what is right for you. What's the best thing for you to do? What's the best way for you to do it? You start to discover with your awakened third eye. And then you might go to your guru for confirmation about certain things. You could ask, is this appropriate for me? I'm thinking about doing this. Is this appropriate for me? Uh, this is historical. This has a record. Uh, Paramahansa Ramakrishna, whenever he thought about doing a certain thing, uh, for him, it was spiritual practices. Um, he always went to Divine Mother first and asked for permission. He, he he went to her and he asked her, "I'm thinking about doing the spiritual practice. Is it okay?" And she said, "Yes, it's fine. You can do that." But if he didn't get her permission, he wouldn't do it. And then with his disciples, uh, Swami Vivekananda, Narendra, for example, if if he wanted to do something first, he first went to Ramakrishna and asked him, would it be acceptable for me to do this? He he did it even about minor things uh, uh, of, of daily task and daily work. He went to his guru and asked. Um, and then we find the exact same thing with Paramahansa Yogananda. James Lin, his most advanced disciple, a beautifully advanced disciple who is in a constant state of ecstasy, divine consciousness all the time. Um, Yogananda's brother had come to Encinitas, and Yogananda's brother was a famous uh, uh, hatha yoga instructor. And you saw James Lin out in the grass in front of the ocean doing some stretching because he liked to get out in the sun. He was he was he was uh, wasn't able to get out into the beautiful sun in the Pacific very often. So he really enjoyed it. And he didn't wear a shirt. He just with his shorts he put down a blanket and he would do some uh, stretching and some muscle work and certain things. He didn't have anything specifically that he was doing. And Yogananda's brother observed him that that he liked this, and so he said, "If you like, I can instruct you in hatha yoga, in a systematic routine that would benefit you." And he knew who he was. He knew that he was a master in hatha yoga. Um, he said, I'll ask." Uh, I, I would like, I think I would like to do it, but I'll ask Master first. So he didn't say yes. He said, I'll ask Master, referring to Yogananda first. And then they parted ways. And then the next day they came across each other again. And he said, I'm sorry, but I have to decline your offer. The Master said I shouldn't do it. And uh, he didn't tell his brother this, but what Yogananda told him, the reason you shouldn't do it is because it will uh, take your energy from your meditation and make your attention more outward focused. You'll be too focused on the body itself, the movements of the body, and the postures of the body. Your mind will start to be too externalized, and you're in a high state of uh, inwardness, a very high state. And so this will bring your consciousness down. So that would be a bad thing for you. So isn't it wonderful and nice that he had his guru there that he could ask? Because his inclination was, yes, I would like to learn, because he was interested in it. But it would have been a mistake. It would have been a bad thing. Um, so I've never had to very many interest in spirituality uh, as far as a lot of variety. Spirituality I was interested in was very uh, straight and forward. I wanted to uh, know the self. I wanted to see and know what I am, and I wanted to see. I wanted to experience my true self, and then I wanted to have the ability to meditate on that. In other words, to know that and be that at all times for the purpose of knowing and realizing God. That's what I wanted. That's if you ask a boy, what do you want? If he gave you that answer, that would be quite an answer. But that's exactly what I wanted. And I was very, very firm about it. And when I left home, I told I told my father exactly that. That's why I'm leaving. This is why, because this is what I want. I wasn't interested in. I was exposed to some spiritual teachers that had come to the West, Swami Muktananda, Swami Rama. Uh, Swami, Swami Rama was a nice man. He started an institution on the East Coast, but he was a yoga teacher, and he taught yoga. Uh, he knows all about the chakras and all the teachings of the chakras and all the yoga techniques and all the yoga philosophies, like a university professor. And then he also has a nice background story of his spiritual practices and his guru. But I felt no warmth um, for him at all. Just dry coldness, no tender feelings, no warmth at all. And the same with Swami um, uh, Muktananda. And Swami Muktananda was a guru of a different type than Swami Rama. He was a more a more experienced guru in uh, meditation. I mean, he had a really strong connection to God in meditation, uh, and with that, he was given uh, certain spiritual powers. So he did have certain spiritual powers um, from the type of practices that he did from his guru. His guru is also a very highly respected guru. Uh, but I could see in him. I also had no felt no warmth. I felt no love or uh, attraction for him at all. Um, I, I kind of sensed a sense of danger uh, being around him. I didn't want to be around him. I thought it was dangerous. Um, so those were two that I met in the United States, and so
Guruji,
yes,
in what sense do you mean you felt it may be dangerous to be around him?
all of us have our consciousness, our awareness is awake. So we're always observing, acknowledging, uh, categorizing, feeling certain uh, things, but especially people. When we're around people, when we meet people, right after the first introduction, you know, when you, you look at each other and maybe you shake each other's hands, maybe you don't, but you acknowledge each other, and then you're with that person. Maybe you're with other people, and while you're together, you're feeling uh, the kind of person that they are, not the kind of person that somebody said that they were, not the kind of person that they say that they are, but you start to form your own opinion of that person. All of us do this, and a lot of times we are right on the money as to what kind of person this is. And this is intuition. Uh, so danger, especially, you can. There's been a couple times in life where I've felt danger at a real high level, and danger at a real high level. Uh, the you become what's it's not a hormone, but something that is secreted in your system that makes you hyper dynamic, like fight or flight. It really amps you up. Um, it, it wasn't that type of danger. It was just somebody uh, like somebody else you might meet that you just feel, well, this person um, is there's something dangerous about this person. You don't know what it is, and you don't want to know what it is. But it's a common for all of us to have these feelings, and where our first impressions are usually right, um, more so than our second and third impressions. Our first impressions are usually right, and our second and third impressions we start to observe the things that we like, and then the things that we saw that we didn't like, we kind of disregard that for the things that we like about the person. Um, so I had no joy or inclination for either one of those. I didn't feel anything at all. Uh, so I did fortunately come into contact to real intense, uh, loving, blissful contact with Mahatmas, and when I went to India, and for I was with him for a little over 7 years, constantly every day, 24 hours a day, uh, and also two perfect masters, gurus who had disciples, and a beautiful history um, to their stories. Um, so I was in an environment, in a perfect environment, living on the Ganges with Mahatmas um, and perfect masters, uh, having initiated me and given me spiritual instruction, and then giving daily satsang. One of the Mahatmas would give satsang every day. It wasn't always the same Mahatma, but there would be satsang every morning at 10 a.m. At first, there would be arti uh, first thing in the morning uh, when the sun came up, and then there would be arti again when the sun in the evening when the sun went down. So that was the atmosphere. So I was, even though I was surrounded by people, I was by myself. I didn't know anybody, and so I didn't talk to anybody except for the Mahatmas occasionally. And I observed and I observed and I observed the Mahatmas, how they behaved, how they lived, how they did, and the perfect masters, how they behaved, how they lived, how they did. And it was quite different from the Mahatmas, the way they lived. And I saw that each Mahatma behaved differently. They, they weren't cookie cutters of each other. They were all very different. Um, and I observed what impressed me the most was I observed their blissful uh, countenance uh, on their face and on their person, and their power and their uh, ability to instruct me, to help me. Uh, so I had some questions about about the initiation that I was unsure of, and they clarified that for me. And then I did the practice, and because I was in that situation. I practiced all the time. It was 24 hours a day. So I forgot everything of the world. The only thing I had in the world was my mother and father, but I forgot everything in the world. Um, never thought about the world. Never thought about food. I just ate food once a day. Um, I, I was very elevated. I mean, I wasn't living at the heart. I was living like in outer space, you could probably say. Um, and even when I became very, very sick, I was still in a highly high state of mind, uh, very high blissful state of mind, even throughout that agony of severe dysentery that I had, and the rapid weight loss, suffering from that. I was still the experience was just blissful. Um, Life is in the world is a crude uh, uh, way of living. It's a dirty way of living. I mean, our bodies are made of mostly moisture and mucus and sinew and bone and blood, and we walk about and we germs attach themselves to us, and our germs attach themselves to others, and it spreads around, and then we uh, put food into this hole in the center of our face. There's a hole there, and we put food inside of it. Isn't that strange? And we chew it, and we find that enjoyable. And then the the part that isn't utilized by the body, we feel a pressure, and then we poop it out like a dog. So we basically every human is living a life like an animal because they're thinking what animals are thinking. Uh, they're doing what animals are doing uh, to a very high degree. Even cultured, sophisticated people are living like dogs, are living like animals, unless and until you have some spiritual inclinations. You're living the life of an animal. When you start to have some spiritual connections, some spiritual inclinations, it's a feeling. It isn't, oh, I read that book and I was inspired by that book. It has nothing to do with a book. It's an inner feeling of, of respect and for life and for all forms of life. And you start to develop a loving feeling for all forms of life and protecting all forms of life and helping all forms of life. Um, you're probably bored with it, but I have a daily struggle of trying to save the little bugs that find their way inside my room here. But I made a little cut in the screen so I can try to pick them up and put them out through the screen back outside very, very carefully without them getting hurt and without them biting me. Because it hurts my heart to see that they're not in their environment that they're meant to be in. So you find the Mahatmas and the masters that are uh, uh, enlightened. These are the characteristics that you see in them. That they're very loving, they're very caring, and they worry about you, they care about you, they think about you, they want to make things better for you. They care about your future. You can say this about a mother and father, but the master has this for you at an even deeper, higher level, and genuinely loves and cares about you, and wants the best for you, which means wants you to uh, have enlightened consciousness, so that you no longer suffer the dream illusions of life, the the struggles and the awfulness of different situations in life that are that we suffer, but they're just dreams. Um, and they wish, just like you wish, if somebody uh, that you love gets hurt, you wish that I I would be hurt. I would rather me be hurt than them be hurt. We have feelings like that. Um, but this shows that you're having uh, some authentic spiritual realization, where you start to think about others instead of yourself, and you start to think less and less about yourself. Um, you most people think about themselves all the time. That's their number one. That's their number one priority is themselves. What can I do? What can I get? Where can I go? What can I get when I go? Uh, what fun can I have? What enjoyment can I have? What entertainment can I have? What can I purchase? What can I buy? What can I bring home? What can I play with? What can I show off? All of those thoughts. And then a selfless one, all of their thoughts are for others. There's none of those thoughts for themselves. Um, it's the way that we're intended to live. And you know this when you live that life, when you live a selfless life. Uh, you spontaneously uh, love it, even if it's described to you and it doesn't seem appealing. If when you start to live it, in other words, when it starts to live through you and you experience it, you you love the experience. You say, oh, this is really me. This is how it's meant to be. This is what was missing before. This is what I didn't have. This is what I wanted, and now I have it. And then you're overwhelmingly thankful and grateful for what you have, and you you would never, ever, ever possibly go back to your old life. You would never do it. You could never do it. You couldn't do it if you try. If you tried, you would not be able to go back to your old life. That's what uh, referring in Christianity to sins. When you're forgiven for your sins. This is really what it means when you've committed sins and then you rise in consciousness and you observe that sin that you've committed, uh, and you know that you would definitely never ever do that ever again. That it would be impossible for you to do that bad thing that you did. It would be impossible for you to ever do it again. And why did you do it? Uh, just some silly, stupid, misguided thought caused you to do something unpleasant that maybe hurt somebody, not just physically or uh, emotionally, maybe. So many different ways we can hurt other people. That's another thing that happens to your nature is you can't uh, tolerate environments of dishonesty, environments of desiring to, or actually hurting other people emotionally or physically. You spontaneously remove yourself from such environments. Um, if you see somebody being abused and being hurt, you, you don't just walk away. You stop it. You feel a power well up inside of you to save that person, to help that person, even if there's a large gang trying to prevent it. They'll recognize that power that's coming up within you. So this to save this person. So this is how life is meant to be lived. And then those who have their spiritual eye opened, it isn't oh, this is a self-realization fellowship spiritual eye, and this is an Ananda spiritual eye, and this is a, uh, Krishna consciousness spiritual eye. It's one spiritual eye for one person, for one Atma, and and you see every other Atma as yourself, and you see every Atma as being the one self of one Brahman, of one God, and you see everything as one. You don't make any distinction between this and that, and you do that in a lower state of consciousness for the fun of living life, but you do it in a sattvic way, meaning as uh, you wake up for God, thirsty for God, and you sing of God, you meditate on God with others, with your loved ones, and you celebrate God, and you listen to stories of God from others. You tell stories of God yourself, and you enjoy the company of your uh, godly friends, and join going to beautiful divine places and in divine history, and uh, you live a, a, a day full of bliss and wonder and gratitude for for that day, and gratitude and expectation of another uh, to come. And you don't see any reason for it to ever end. Uh, you found you, you found your true self. But I was listening to this fellow who was talking. I, I turned it on because it was interesting, because he was talking about uh, Babaji and Kriya Yoga. He looked familiar. I'm not sure who he was, but he looked familiar to me. Uh, but it was just the same old thing um, that I got bored with within minutes. Just talking the same old thing about that everybody else talks about Kriya Yoga, maybe with some variation, but nothing to satisfy the heart. Uh, the ears are interested, and the eyes might be interested, but the heart isn't satisfied. Um, so many people offer you many things, many things. They can be spiritual, unrelated to anything spiritual. And then many people offer you many things that are related to spirituality. And none of them satisfy your heart until one day you come across somebody who shows you yourself, and you see yourself for yourself, and you recognize yourself, and the blinders fall from your eyes, and you see and you remember, I'm God's divine being, and I always will be, and I'll never ever live in darkness ever again. Now that my eye is open, I'll always live in that light. If I'm stumbling, if I'm not balanced, I'll stay close to my brothers and sisters in Guru who are steady to help me stay balanced, to help me stay in line, to help me stay true, to pick me up if I fall, and not leave me behind. Will slow down until I can catch up. Won't leave me alone. Um, he who is unmindful of the limitations of direction, space, time, etc., and perfectly tranquil, attains the sanctum of the self. And that is the all-pervading, stainless, eternal bliss, which dispels all qualities like heat and cold. He becomes all-knowing, all-pervading, and immortal. This is the promise of Babaji. This is kriya yoga. This is how the gurus present kriya yoga as being this, as Shankaracharya presented it. All the masters presented it this way. Sri Yukteswar, Paramahansa Yogananda, Lahiri Mahasaya, and definitely Babaji. I can just imagine some who think of themselves as being the disciple of Yogananda, and actually being the disciples of Yogananda. The difference between the two. How would they hold up? Would they be able to do it? Yogananda gave his disciples, some of them, he just let them do, like Gyan Mata, just let her be, thought she was doing just fine. And then some others, he gave very strict instructions of behavior that they found hard to follow, and left him. Said goodbye. Didn't realize that there was going to be a hardship. I understood that in discipleship that there would be a lot of hardship, and I was willing to do anything. Whatever the guru said, I would be willing to do anything. If he wanted me to climb to the top of that mountain, I would do that. If you want me to swim out into the middle of the sea, I would do that. If you told me to go to a particular place in the jungle and stay there for uh, 3 weeks until he came, I would happily do that. And I was prepared for that. I understood all of those were possibilities. There's nothing difficult really about practicing Kriya Yoga for enlightenment. It's a all around best thing for you, and it's the most enjoyable thing in life you'll ever have once you make a strong connection with your inner friend, God, within you, your companion. When you make that connection, you'll always have God as your companion, and your your God is real. Your God is uh, relatable. Your God com- communicates with you and has fun with you, plays with you, laughs at you, plays tricks on you. Um, you, you can live with God every day. Now, God being as such, you can't say that God is at, um, where is God? God is at 416 Beard Street, Tallahassee, Florida. He doesn't have an address like that. That's where God is. Um, how, how do you find God? Well, my first thought was, uh, I want to find God, but I was also scared. I was uh, I was really truly scared. I was thinking, well, what if um, I want God, but what if God doesn't like me? What if God doesn't want me? I would be I would be devastated. So I was really not. I'll do whatever God wants me to do, wants me to be, whatever it is. If He wants me to clean up the slop in the latrines, I'll clean up the slop in the latrines. I'll do whatever He says to do. Um, if He wants me to be the lowest of the low, the least respected disciple of all the disciples, I'll be that disciple. I'll be the lowest of the low. I'll be the most disrespected. I'll I'll do it happily if that's what I'm told to do. Um, you make a habit of practice, and you do it every day. You make that vow to do it every day, no matter what. And it won't be a spectacular practice, but someday you'll wake up and you'll start your practice, and you'll find a new person. It is kind of, when I was a kid, I was fascinated that butterflies come from cocoons. And it's a little slimy, ugly thing inside the cocoon, a caterpillar, that becomes a butterfly. Um, but that's what we are. I mean, we're a slimy, ugly little thing that came out of our mother's womb. You experience that at childbirth. Um, and as disgusting as it is, I mean, there's a lot at childbirth. There's lots of blood. and lots of pain. There, there's the joy of a new life, a tremendous joy, isn't there? When you see a new baby, you disregard all of the difficulty, you disregard all of the um, nastiness of it all, and you're you're aware only of the incredible sight of, of another life. It's just come into the world with no expectations, um, no expectations at all, and it's completely uh, at your mercy for care and attention and help, because it can't take care of himself. Um, that's how we come into the world. And then that's how I told you when Divine Mother came to me, she said, "Happy birthday." And as clearly as you hear me saying it right now. And she said in a most beautiful voice, and was puzzled. I mean, it was a real conversation. I was puzzled. And I thought first, it's not my birthday. And then I told her, I said, it's not my birthday. And she said, your spiritual birthday. Oh, I said, oh, I understood that. When she said that, I understood that. As the day that we're born immortal, that we're born no longer, again, born by uh, flesh of the body. We're born in spirit and truth and purity in God. In whatever form we inhabit, because we like inhabiting various forms. It's enjoyable for the devotee to worship God in different ways. We'll take care of it and protect it and keep it clean and dress it beautifully for the purpose of associating with God every day, and will no longer be confused by the appearances, by the illusions of the world. There's so many, and it's so easy to get entangled into the things of the world. It's also sticky. You just take just one little step on the stickiness, and the stickiness grabs hold of you, and it's hard to get away from it. So if I were to give you some instruction, the most important instruction of your life when it comes to spiritual realization, I would simply say to you, make your meditation, make your meditation your tapas, make it your most, most, most number one important thing to do. Everything else can wait. You do your spiritual practice, and then do everything else. If you do your spiritual practice, you're protected from all the entanglements that you will brush up against during the course of the day. But God will protect you from it. Um, if you're putting God first, meaning I love God, I'm putting God first. God's the most important thing of the day for me, and I demonstrate it by doing my spiritual practice first thing in the day. God protects his devotees. So whatever situation I get into in this world, and there's countless untold situations that we can get uh, into this world, we won't be alone. We'll be protected. God, God will be right there with us, protecting us. Nothing can harm us. Nothing can kill us. Nothing can make us lose faith. Nothing can make us lose heart. Nothing can cause us despair. Nothing can confuse us or delude us. If we're not, if we're not feeling loving, if we're not feeling humble, if we're not feeling gratitude, uh, at the, at the slightest feeling of lack of feeling of those three virtues, then you need to make yourself right. You need to put yourself back on course. First way to put yourself back on course is gratitude. Gratitude to God for creating you and taking care of you and leading you along the path of realization, the path of salvation, which you have to be a very highly developed soul. Every one of you have to be if you've gotten to this point. If you've gotten to this point of understanding, if you've gotten to this point of this teaching. What I teach is teaching at a very, very advanced level. Very, very few understand. The masters understand, the gurus understand. Very, very few others understand what I teach. And the fact that I'm teaching you, you would have to have the ability to realize, the ability to understand. But at some time, that butterfly is going to come out of that shell of a cocoon, and you're going to feel, you're going to experience that lightness of being, that lightness uh, of those troubles are coming for me from the left, so those troubles are coming for me from the right. Uh, let it be just another folly of life. Let it be what it is. I'm I'm with my Lord. I'm with my God. I'm thinking of I'm thinking of I'm thinking of Him. I'm thinking of her. I know sadness. I know despair. I know pain, and I know God. If I'm in sadness, if I'm in pain, if I'm in despair, uh, I want God with me, and we'll endure it together because it won't last forever. It also will pass. Well, this is operating from my cell phone. I'm just using my cell phone as a hotspot. I thought it would cut off. Like years ago when we first started doing Skype, some of you might remember, we do satsang and then we get everybody get cut off like every 5 minutes, and then I'd call everybody back up and I start talking and I get cut off again, and I call everybody back up and talk, and then I get cut off again. That's how satsang would go for 2 hours. Things have improved quite a bit.
Guruji,
Yes.
your cell phone seems to have a strong connection. Not for once it seemed that this connection is not good.
Well, it's a small town, but there's some big cities around, and it's a 5G. I don't know if that really makes a difference or not. The experts, they say that it makes a difference. So I remember when we were traveling through the Himalayas, we had our cell phones with us, and whenever we go through the little towns, sometimes we have good cell service, sometimes we wouldn't. And some of the motels we stayed at, sometimes we would have good service, and sometimes we wouldn't. Most of the time, we wouldn't have good service. It was that way in the USA too. And when I was attempting to drive to the ocean the other day, I was going the GPS, a route I had never taken before. It was taking me through these country roads, 2-lane country roads I'd never been on before, and I was losing cell connection. I noticed while I was driving there were different gaps, the cell connection where I was driving. So there's still places where there isn't cell service.
Respected Swamiji,
Yes.
how are your stitches?
How are they?
Yeah, do they hurt?
Uh, not really. It just kind of hurt like a cut. There's only uh, several. Uh, I had to stitch it because it was the cut was really deep. I didn't realize how deep it was. I was going to continue. My thought was I'll continue to drive to the ocean because I really wanted to swim, and then I realized it's not it's not realistic because the blood was spurting out, and I was surprised at how much blood I was losing. So I wrapped it real tight because I had a towel. I wrapped it really, really tight, and then I had another wrap of and wrapped that around it, and I kept my arm close to my chest so it would stay tight until I got back. The truck's completely drivable. It didn't hurt anything on the drivetrain. It'll just need a new front bumper. Uh, the driver's windshield was smashed. The front windshield was smashed. The rear view mirror was uh, busted off. Um, so the front light was busted, but nothing structural. So all of these things are relatively minor. I have a body shop, do the big stuff, and the little stuff I can do myself.
That's a relief. I was also wondering what is the right approach to obviously, I mean, with your level of consciousness, it's different. But ideally, what is the right approach towards such situations? Should we think like God saved us? It could be much bigger. Or would it be like, why didn't God save me and protect me all, just like entirely? What would be the right approach of gratitude, of thinking under such circumstances? Because I always I always think that, and probably because I don't have my own direct experience, is that I quite expect God to protect me at all times. So what should be our approach?
Well, I know God protects all of us at all times, not just not just some, but He protects all. Now, some people have rejected God. Uh, believe it or not, there are some people that have rejected God seriously, and on account of that, they're not protected. Um, but those who love God are protected. Um, I I know that I love God. I know that nothing can harm me. I know that nothing can uh, stop me from loving Him. Uh, Sometimes I think, um, maybe God has stopped loving me. I know that I'll never stop loving Him. Um, but if you're referring to this, I never thought about such things. I never think about such things when I get put in uh, what are bad situations, hard situations. I was put in an insane asylum by law. I was forced, handcuffed, and put in in, in a lockup for mental patients for a complete corrupted reason of a person of authority in the hospital, and spent a week there. Uh, Really brutal situation. Um, so I've been in a lot of difficult situations, um, but every single one of them, I've learned a lot, and I can look back at them, and I see it, what I uh, attained by being in those situations. What I what I know now that I didn't know then. I I can see people so much better. Like mentally ill people, for example. I had very little association with mentally ill people. Um, just a family member uh, had a slight schizophrenia. So that's the only thing I ever witnessed before. I'd never actually seen uh, people that were certifiably, without a doubt, crazy. And I've seen it in the movies, but I've never seen it in person. And then I had the time to have conversations with them and talk with them and ask them questions. And it was really, really amazing. But I formed uh, real close relationships with all of those people. Right? We all became real close friends. And um, every morning we woke up and enjoyed each other's company. We looked for each other and kept company with each other and enjoyed each other's company. I saw that there something was wrong with their brain, uh, but the heart was still there. the soul is still there, and all of its splendor, even though the package was broken. And some of them, not only did they have mental illness, permanent mental illness, they also had some physical disability to go along with it. But every day, learn something new. I do, there's so much to know. We know so very little, and the smart people know that. It's the first thing they tell you. I forget his name now, but he's referred to as the smartest man in the world. He has an IQ. He's real likable. I like him. He's from Montana, a rancher from Montana. Grew up with cows and horses. He has an IQ of 200, and he's fascinating. How he talks about God, because he's spot on, absolutely correct in his approach and understanding of God, even though he's never read any. He reads a lot. I mean, a lot. He reads and reads and reads. But he's hasn't really read much of Eastern philosophy. But what he says is very oddly just what the Vedas say, but in his language of his mind, of his intellect. One strange thing about him, which you realize is it would be very difficult to be that smart, because I found him at times to be, even though he is really nice, at times he could be very impatient with somebody that couldn't keep up with what he was saying. He could very easily get upset, get impatient with the person for not following along with what he was explaining, even though what he was explaining was would be extremely difficult to keep up. I tried my best. I made a memo of it. It's more of the talk is on YouTube. I'm gonna play some more of it. It's very, very revealing that you can find God through the intellect also. With a really, really high intellect, you can also find God, as Ramakrishna says. There's many paths to God. Would this man, for example, would he benefit from kriya yoga practice? I don't know. I'm kind of curious if I were to meet him and have a discussion with him, or try to, if he would be interested in it, because I would present it to him in a very different way. I wouldn't present it to him, even though he's familiar with India. I wouldn't present it in an Indian way. I'd be really interested to see what his thoughts would be. In other words, what the impression would make on him. He's a very nice man, extremely smart, and loves thinking, loves reading. But he's also he hasn't found real happiness. he hasn't made any bad mistakes, but but he does know that no matter how smart he is, that intellect isn't giving him happiness. He loves the insight that it gives him, because he reads so many books, and that insight isn't in the books. The insight that he has, so he loves what's being revealed to him through his high intellect. And what's being revealed to him is God, because he talks about God and he uses the word God, and he'll tell you some very remarkable things about God that are, I believe, completely true. I'll find the tape and I'll give you his name tomorrow. You can look him up and listen to him. It's worth listening to. It's very good.
Many thanks.
Pranam,
Okay.
Guruji.
Om Tat Sat. I'll see everybody. Ko Meningi.
Guruji, I had a question. We'll take it up tomorrow?
Yeah, we can do it tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you, Guruji.
Pranam Guruji.
Thank you.
Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Pranam, Guruji.
Tat Sat.
Pranam Guruji. Om
Tat
Tat
Gurudev.
Appa. Om Tat Sat. Precious little girl.
Om Tat Sat Gurudeva.
Om Tat Sat.